don't remember planning for it. I've always known I wanted to have children. I always wanted to be a teacher. You don't want to teach other people's children and not have your own, do you?
Did you always know you wanted to have 3?
Oh, yes. I always knew I wanted lots. And my husband only wanted 2. So then when the second time I was pregnant, I found I was having twins. I was really happy. Because it was the only way I was going to get more than 2.
Can you please tell me about 1996, please, what you were doing in that year?
Oh, well, we'd just moved from Italy to Belgium, and I was very, very pregnant. I was 6 months pregnant when we moved, and then on January the 5th is when my first child was born, Bryn.
Can you tell me about what you were doing in 1998?
I was looking after my little boy, who was 2, and then in the May I had my twin girls, and it was very busy.
What was raising 3 children like a typical weekday?
Oh gosh, when the girls were very tiny, it was quite full on, but in a different way. When they were really tiny, I used to have to be really organised, so I'd do things like when they were down and having a sleep, I'd run and put the washing on and give Bryn some attention. While they were quiet and happy, I'd cook his lunch. We'd had a cooked meal, and then I'd pack him a packed tea, because I knew that in the end of the afternoon, before my husband got home from work, they would be quite hard work, and he'd still need attention and he'd need feeding. So then I could breastfeed the girls on the sofa, and he'd have a little table next to me with the packed tea, and he loved having a lunchbox. So I found ways round organising it. At some point every day, all 3 of them would be crying because he was 2 and they were newborns. It was a bit manic, but it was lovely. I loved it.
What was the hardest thing about being a mum, or is, because you asked it?
The hardest thing?
I mean,
for me?
Back then compared to now, I guess, yeah.
I think back then you worry. When children are little, you worry over absolutely everything. And the things that you worry about, to be honest, aren't really things to worry about, because you can solve it. You can always solve their problems. You can sort things for them when they're little. The thing that's hardest is as they get bigger, you have to let them go, and I'm not very good at that. And you have to sit back and sometimes watch them making their own mistakes, or doing things differently, or not necessarily the way you would do it. And if they mess up, you've just got to let them mess up, and that's quite hard. I think letting go is the hardest thing for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm not very good at that bit.
No, you weren't very good at that, or you're not very good at that. Do you think there's anything, if you, looking at like how you've raised your children now, and how you've lived the past 20 years, going back to, if you were to go back to 1996, do you think there's anything you would have done differently?
No, I don't. Nothing big. I'm really pleased that I stayed at home as long as I did.
How long did you stay at home for?
So I was at home from when Bryn was born until Anna and Elspeth were in year 1. So that's a lot of time. And then I only went part-time. I didn't go back full-time until fairly recently, to be honest, 3 years ago. Up until then I've always been very part-time. So I've had half a week when I've got fixed time. And at first it was just half a week of teaching, and then gradually I built it up, but it was only ever half a week teaching and the rest was all flexible, so I could still then always fit it round things that the children needed me to do, because even though they're bigger, they still need you to take them places, or orthodontics appointments, or all sorts of things that you have to do. And if you're working full time, that's just so difficult. And I don't think I would change anything. I like the fact that I've got a career, and I like the fact that I kept bits going, but I'm glad I didn't go back to it full on. I think I would have missed out on being with my children, and I really loved that bit. The bits I liked the best were the bits when we were all at home when they were little.
So my project is on the motherly figure in the family, and some responsibilities, I guess. Do you have anything to add?
I think it's really, really important to have a mum that's there. I do look at some of the children in my school that I work at, and I do wonder how they're going to cope as they get bigger because they don't have mums who are there all the time. And it's not necessarily the mums who are less well off. Some of our highest powered mums are not there because they're off working and jet setting and wheeler dealing, and their children get passed from pillar to post to activity, and they just don't get that quality downtime at home, just sort of playing games and just messing around and having fun. And I think that's really sad, really, really sad. But I think the role of the mum is sometimes undervalued, but I think it's really, really important. Really,
In what way
really
do you
important.
mean? Do you think it's undervalued?
Well, people say I'm just a mum. I'm just a stay-at-home
yeah.
mum. I'm just a mum. It's so important. You hold your children's future in your hands. What you do when they're at home with you helps to shape the sort of person they are, helps to build their resilience, how they cope with things. And how can they get that from being passed from activity to activity? Don't think it works.
Did you and Dad ever have a conversation about who was going to be the stay-at-home one?
No, because I desperately wanted to do it.
Oh,
I
right, 'cause
killed
you
him.
wanted to.
And also
What do you mean
because
it killed him?
I would have been desperate not to be. I wouldn't have wanted to be go to work. I would have broken my heart to go to work and leave you all at home. Absolutely would have hated it. And also when all of you were born, we were in Belgium and Luxembourg, and we were there for Dad's work. So he was the breadwinner. I was only ever, when we lived in Italy, I was working in a language school, and then I got pregnant with Bryn and we moved to Belgium. Didn't bother looking for a job because I was 6 months pregnant with Bryn, so I didn't have a job to go back to, and I couldn't have there in that country have earned enough to keep us all on, whereas he was earning a big enough salary, and I was lucky enough not to have to go back to work, that we were comfortably off on what he brought home. So it meant that I could stay at home with you all, and I'm really pleased that I could. I wouldn't do it any other way.
Do you think there's any ages that you look back on, any years that you think were the hardest, or any ages the three of us went through?
The year that Bryn did his A-levels and you did your GCSEs, that summer was really quite hard going.
Oh yeah.
Because if you've got one person who's slightly stressed in the morning, everybody else can kind of pussyfoot round them, and when you've got three people who are stressed and you're trying to keep them calm and get them out the door, or you've got three... Yeah, no, it was horrible. It was really hard.
Do you think that was harder than when we were all really young?
God, yes.
Really?
Yes.
I suppose you don't really have a lot of... Not that you don't have a
When
lot of
I
feelings
was
when you're
when
young,
I was at
but-
home, when you were little, I didn't do anything else apart from look after you. And when you two were born, Bryn was only 2, just over 2, so he wasn't going to anything apart from groups that we went to together, mother and toddler type groups. So I didn't have to get up and out the door at a certain time. It didn't matter if all 4 of us were still in our pyjamas at 10 o'clock, because we weren't going anywhere. Sometimes all we did was get out, get dressed, go around the corner to the bread shop, come back. That would take all day some days, but it doesn't matter if you know that because you've got 3 young children, you're not trying to do too many different things apart from have a nice time and enjoy your babies. No, that wasn't hard at all. It was manic and it was full on and it was knackering, but it wasn't as hard as teenagers at all.
That makes sense. Some of us were quite hard teenagers.
Teenagers are hard going. At least with 2-year-olds, you know they love you.
Oh right, yeah, okay.
You know, they don't slam doors in your face. You know they're going to go to bed before you do, so you're going to get an hour before you go to bed of peace and quiet, not be in bed first.
That makes sense.
And you know where they are. That's hard as a mum, when you're out and about and you get to an age where I can't ask where you are or what time you're coming home, and I wouldn't because you're used to living away. But I do find it hard when you're home not to ask, and have to make myself not ask. Not because I want to know where you are.
When we come back from uni.
Yeah, not because I want to know where you are and because I want to be nosy, but because I want to know when I have to start panicking if you're not home by. But when you're here, no one does that, and you survive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that freaks me out the most about Bryn living in Zurich, because there's no one there to notice if he doesn't get home.
Yeah.
It does worry me sometimes.
Yeah, that is scary.
That's the sort of things that mummies worry about.
No, that's scary. I get that. I hadn't thought about that.
See here, if you didn't get home,
Izzy would know.
and then she would
panic.
Yeah, she'd raise you. Nobody.
I mean, you think about like Ellie and Bryn talk all day.
Hopefully.
Only checking in the morning, so someone would know.
That makes me feel a bit better. She's still in the same country, is she? I mean, his apartment is lovely, and the neighbours are kind of they're very polite, but they're not friendly. He doesn't know his neighbours really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we grew up in a village, didn't we? Sounds a bit different.
Yeah.
Do you think you consciously thought about that you were raising 2 girls and 1 boy, or do you think you just raised them all the same? Or was there any worries that you had about Elsa and I that you didn't have about Bryn?
I had more worries about having a single and then twins. I was bloody determined that I was going to do everything for you two that I'd done for him. Things like breastfeeding. So I breastfed you both.
Oh, because we were twins, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I breastfed you both for a year, like I did with him, and I was determined that you weren't going to miss out on things that were good for you because there were 2 of you rather than 1 of you. And I was determined I was never going to call you twins, call you girls, and never going to compare you because you're different little people.
Yeah, you were always really good at that. There's always other people that were really bad at that. Like teachers or like...
Yeah, and that's not fair. That makes me so cross, so cross. And I have...
No, I remember you getting cross at that brownie leader.
Yeah, I have got cross with people before because that's not fair. That's not fair. I do worry about different things because you're girls. But that's because I'm female and I'm aware how potentially unsafe this society can be if you're a female. Not because of you.
Yeah, no, I get that.
At all.
Yeah. It's realistic, isn't it?
Yeah. And try to bring you up so that you're aware without being... without sensationalising, making you see horror around every corner because you need a certain level of awareness, but I don't want you to not want to go anywhere.
That's interesting. Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I've done this question with quite a few other people my age, and a couple of them have said like my mum scared me too much. I didn't think that, but
no, and it's a really fine line when really the mother inside you wants to scream and shout at you, don't go anywhere out on you, and want you to be inside and safe, and stay at home in all well and not go anywhere, because then I can keep you safe and I can look after you and I can cook your tea and you'll be fine. But you can't do that, can you? No. Otherwise you'd still be there at 40 and your father wouldn't be very happy.
That would be so weird. Yeah, how did you find us moving out, going back to just you and Steve? You don't have to answer. We all know it's a bit shit.
Yeah, it's horrible. When being a mum has been so much of who you are for such a long time, it's horrid when you all go.
You make me cry.
But it is, it's a big part of who I am. It's the best part, I think, of who I am. When I had an interview to go back to do my return to teaching course, one of the questions was, what thing in your life are you most proud of? And I didn't have to think. I said my children, because that is. And if I had to choose between my career and my children, I'd choose my children every time.
Okay.
We stop this now.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you. Good hug.